All right, Subcommittee number 3 of the Privileges and Elections Committee is called to order. If you could please record your presence on the electronic device. All right, please close the roll. All right, we have a quorum and a couple of administrative matters I've spoken with the patrons, and I'm going to ask that a couple bills be pulled up in block for a motion to table. They're on the same subject matter as House Bill 927, which I intend to take up first, and those are House Bill 54, House Bill 398, and House Bill 441 in block number 1. Is there a motion to table?
Table. Second.
All right. Please record your vote on the motion.
We might want to go at ease for a second. I'm having technical difficulties.
Okay, the clerk has reported technical difficulties. We're going to go at ease for just a minute. Please record your vote. All right, please close the roll. The motion to table carries. House Bill, all right, please give your attention to Delegate Roxanne Robinson, House Bill 927.
Oh, I have 2 names this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So last year we had...
if we could come to order, please, so we can hear the bill.
So last year we had the big omnibus voting reform bill, and I brought this bill to the committee last year because one of the things that I think is very important when we're talking about elections and transparency and things is that we know where the votes come from. And so what House Bill 927 does is it just says the ballots need to be sorted and results reported by precinct. So all those early voters who came to different locations to vote in that 45-day pre-election time or absentee ballots, that we just know where they come from, and this is a way for, just says you got to count it by precinct. That's what the bill does.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the patron by the committee? Delegate Converse Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask that is method in the bill at all on how that would be tracked and reported and kept? Is there any difference in how that can happen, or does the bill leave it up to the registrars?
Right now, this would be sort of left up to the registrars. It's kind of a back-end approach that once they're cast, they're counted. I don't really have a preference on how things are counted, just as long as we can divide it out. And there were localities who did this in the last election. I have Fairfax County, and they were able to accomplish this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? All right, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak for or against this legislation? Come forward.
Good morning. I'm Barbara Tabb. I'm president of the Electoral Board Association here in Virginia. What we're asked that you do is we do plan to, and we have in place, methods to count by precinct and report your totals by precinct. The only problem we have with this bill and some others is where it says sort. We want to make very clear that a physical sorting of ballots into precincts is just about impossible. I just went back and worked with Fairfax a few minutes ago. They had almost 1 million ballots that were in early voting ballot machines at the presidential election. If we have to go back and physically take 1 million ballots and put them in, they have 243 going to 260 precincts. We're going to have a room the size of a football stadium with piles of ballots. What we're requesting is, yes, we will be reporting. We do it with ballot styles, if that help you, just like when you go in and you've got a split precinct that's got 2 House districts in it. You get 1 ballot for this precinct, 1 ballot for that. Same thing will start happening in the absentee ballot world. Just please, we request you do not have us do a physical sort or anything with those ballots after they're tabulated.
We have a question, if you will take one, ma'am. Delegate Bloxham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So how did Fairfax do it? Was it all just computer? When you run it through the machine, it puts it out to the precinct, and then it's computerized?
Correct.
So the only time you would really need to do it by hand is if there was a recount, or if
we had to go back through either as a part of a risk limiting audit. A recount would actually, at this point, be done using different equipment, but probably would be a tabulator, but we would have those precinct ballots back. We'd just run them all through, and it would count the ones from the precincts that you were doing the recount in.
So your fix to this bill is just to say not to have us direct you how to do it, but to tell you that you need to do it.
Correct. Yeah, and as I say, if you just let us use the standard way we've been doing split precincts and so forth in the past, we can get you your results you want, but we can't do it if we have to manually sort them in a timely basis.
So follow-up question. So small localities, you cover the state. Mm-hmm. Do they have the ability with their machines to do this?
Yes, with coding them by ballot, by precinct. Each ballot will have a precinct indicator on it. So if it goes into an absentee ballot, it doesn't matter whether it's my 1st precinct or my 15th precinct. It'll know and be able to tabulate it in that tabulator when we come get to elections.
So follow-up question, Mr. Chairman. Follow-up question. I guess my question is to you and then the patron. I mean, so you're just asking for a small removal of hand sorting. Is that basically in the bill?
That's all we're asking, is just not to have to hand sort, not to have to sort ballots.
Okay.
We know we need to report. We agree we need to report them by precinct. And 5 localities actually did that in this last election. So we've already done it. We've piloted it. We know we can do it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess I would ask the patron, would you consider that a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Meg, is that easy to do or not easy to do? I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Bloxham, it's not that it
it wouldn't be a simple line amendment fix for HB 927, but we could do a substitute. And essentially, if we're going to take out the hand counting and sorting piece, then you're going to see a version that looks a little bit more like Senate Bill 3 as it reported out of Senate P&E.
Senate Bill 3 does accomplish what we'd like to accomplish.
And maybe what I would recommend is that if we go ahead and proceed on this, there may be time to prepare a substitute or something like that before the full committee meets. Okay, would that be acceptable, Delegate Bloxham?
Yes,
Okay.
sir, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
And that would be fine. I kind of anticipated that might be the path we would go down. So I've already talked to the council about preparing that substitute.
Okay. Well, all right. Is there, Delegate Krizak?
I want to thank the delegate for her leadership on this. We all agree that this is important. We need to know what the precinct results are. But I'm just going to vote no on this just because it hasn't been amended yet. But I know when it comes out of full, I'll be supportive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. The bill is before the committee.
Move to report. Second.
All right. There's a motion to report in a second. Is there any debate? All right. Hearing none, please record your vote. Please close the roll. Bill reports 7-1.
So I'll see you in a while.
All right. Thank you, Delegate. Thank you. Okay. All right. Moving to Block 2, House Bill 149, patroned by Delegate Runyon. He has asked that that be passed by for the day.
So moved. Second.
All right. All those in favor of the motion to pass by, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. And likewise, I think Delegate LaRock has asked that House Bill 945 be passed by for the day.
So moved. Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. All right. Those two bills are passed by. Delegate LaRock, House Bill 956.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's certainly, if it's the will of the committee that 945 go by for the day, I wouldn't dispute that, but that was not my request, in case there's any confusion on that.
Okay. Any objection to going by for the day?
No, as long as there's another meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. 956 is actually a very simple proposition. As you know, recently we've kind of expanded Election Day to be something more like election season, and I'm sure there's some benefits that all would agree, but as Election Day is established by law, I think voters expect it to be a day when elections are concluded, votes are counted, and by extending it 3 days beyond Election Day for a period that absentee ballots can be counted and received or counted really only sort of muddles the finality and closure of Election Day. I think this potentially erodes public confidence in the results that are delivered on Election Day, and those are really just the primary reasons that I think it would be in the best interest of the public to limit the absentee ballots being counted to those received by Election Day.
All right. Questions by the committee. Delegate Converse Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I would ask, when is the last possible time voters can make up their minds? I guess I would ask, Delegate. When is the last possible time they could make up their mind and decide on who they're going to vote for?
That's an interesting question. Well, I guess in case of in-person voting, it obviously is before they fill in a circle, and by mail, it would be somewhat dependent on how long it takes for an absentee ballot to be placed in the mail and delivered by the U.S. Postal Service, so I can't give a precise answer to that.
Mr. Chair, follow up?
Delegate Converse Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Would it be fair to say that if you're mailing in your ballot, you're at a disadvantage because you would have to decide sooner if the bill passes?
A disadvantage meaning there's less certainty that the ballot would be received on time? Perhaps I could agree with that to some degree, just as if you hop in your car and are voting on election day and risk being stuck in traffic. Going sooner is better, and certainty of being able to cast your vote increases by taking your action earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking to the bill at the appropriate time.
Yeah, just remind me to do that. We have some more questions. Delegate Williams.
Yes, question for the patron. This would not stop somebody who maybe might be a little more indecisive from hand delivering their absentee ballot to the polling location?
I see no reason that it would, so I think the answer is yes.
All right.
Delegate Head.
Question probably for council. When do they meet to, when does the state board meet to certify the election? What's the schedule for that?
For the state board to certify the election, it's the third or fourth Monday in November. I'm looking at some state board people. Does anyone? Third or fourth?
To the right.
Third. Thank you, Chris.
So we still, if it is properly postmarked, if I'm reading existing code that's not being changed here, if it's received after, if it's received after Election Day, but before 5 p.m. on the second business day before they meet to do that, then that vote would still be counted. Am I reading that right? Or
Mr. Chair, Delegate, no. So under House Bill 956, it would remove the provision that would allow an absentee ballot that was received after the close of polls to be counted regardless of postmark. The ballots just will have to be returned to the office of the general registrar or a drop-off location by the close of polls on Election Day.
Delegate Shelley Simons.
So this is an issue that is very personal to me. During my tied election drama in 2017, after a few months after the election, I was in the registrar's office and they showed me a stack that high of ballots that had come in after 5 o'clock. Any one of them could have decided my election. So, and one of the things I thought a lot about were the military folks who have ballots that get delayed when they mail, or just the confusion because other states have it by the postmark date. So it's really easy. So I would ask the patron, what about those military families who are moving from state to state and need to have kind of more consistent rules on mailing in absentee ballots?
In response to the patron comments, I certainly agree that we want to do everything we can to make sure that votes are cast by all eligible qualified voters. In the case of military, perhaps if that's a concern that need to be addressed, it could be done by extending the availability of ballots to them at the starting end, as opposed to having ballots come in after Election Day. That would be my suggestion, but don't just disagree with the significance of a stack that perhaps could have gone in either direction. There's always some degree of uncertainty there, but that certainly was a fascinating thing to watch. I agree.
Mr. Chair. So basically, to sum this up is, if the ballots aren't there on Election Day at the registrar's office, dead certain we stop, and from that point we count. So technically, on Tuesday night of the election, it'd be finished. You know how many votes are there. They've been at least not certified by the state, but you would know the results of the election on election night.
Perhaps with the exception of provisional ballots, which could be acted on, I think.
Correct. I stand corrected. Thank you.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this legislation? All right, I believe we have some folks who have signed up to speak online. All right. What's that? Okay. Looks like there are two people in the queue. Mary Ivy.
Good morning. I think this bill, I support this bill. I feel like being able to count the ballots the day after the election board is a benefit to everyone. Instead of having to come back on Friday after the election and still be counting, it also helps to not have to take a magnifying glass and try and decipher what the postmark is. Is it acceptable? Is it not? And I think it would also be helpful to the local election boards not to have to come in that extra day and go back through everything and recount. And again, as was mentioned earlier, we would have an idea of who won on election night. So I do support this bill.
All right, thank you. And
That's what Brian does too, down in Greensboro.
Arena Brenda.
No. Just
Arena Brenda.
that thing on the
Breda.
back. Unless you pass it.
Yes, hi. Thank you. My name is Arena Van Breda, Alexandria, Virginia, and I'm here representing the views of the League of Women Voters of Virginia. The League of Women Voters opposes HB 956. Virginia voters should not be harmed if the U.S. Post Office has a delay in delivering a valid, completed ballot to a voter to the registrar. Current law already requires that the ballot be postmarked no later than the close of polls on Election Day. We appreciate you giving us an opportunity to comment on this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there any further comments from the committee or any questions, I should say, before I give the delegate the last word? Okay, Delegate LaRocque, anything you'd like to say in closing?
I think we've covered the important points. Again, it's partly the perception that Election Day is Election Day and that the results that are delivered as soon as the ballots that have been received and the votes that have been cast on Election Day have been tallied creates a perception, I think, that is in the best interest of the voters. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there a motion?
Move to report.
Second.
All right, there's a motion to report and a second. Is there any
Mr. Chairman?
debate?
I have a substitute motion.
All right, Delegate Krizak.
I move to lay this bill gently on the table.
Second.
All right, there is a superior motion to table the bill that has been seconded. That is non-debatable. Please record your vote on the device. Please close the roll. All right, that motion fails.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report.
All right, and I think that the motion to report is now before the committee, having been previously made, but thank you. And any further debate or discussion? I thank you, Delegate Converse Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I paid a lot of attention and watched the counting of the provisionals and the canvassing that went on in Virginia Beach for several different races, just to understand the process and how the registrar works. And I would say that this is a slippery slope. This is not only making different requirements for voters for our military voters, but also it's talking now about the provisionals, and we have to come in on the couple days later for the provisionals and the canvass anyway. So are we going to now, remove any provisionals, and are we going to go down that slope? So, Mr. Chair, for that reason, I will be voting no on this bill.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Delegate.
perhaps we could ask the clerk, this bill is not intended to interfere with the counting of provisional ballots.
No, this bill would not impact anything with the provisional voting process.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think the general idea is, we want more people voting on Election Day or to make preparations ahead of time if you can. Okay, the bill is before the committee on a motion to report. It's been seconded. Hearing no further debate, please record your vote. All right, the bill reports 5-3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank you. Close the roll. Okay. Delegate Valkenburg, House Bill 439.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, there is a substitute.
Council, has the substitute been distributed to the members?
Mr. Chairman, it should be available on LIS, and I think IHOD right now.
Okay. Delegate, would you like to explain the substitute, or
Yeah, sure.
is it just part and parcel of the entire presentation?
Yeah, I can explain. The substitute was to get the FISC off of it, and so what we did in the substitute is, in the original vision, well, I guess it does go to explaining it. So the bill itself is to include the constitutional amendment explainer with the absentee ballot. So as you guys know, we approve explainers for constitutional amendments here in P&E, and then those are provided to folks on Election Day in polling places. But what we saw, especially in the last go-around with the constitutional amendments we had, is that a lot of people were calling DLS, they were calling elect, they were calling our legislative offices because they weren't sure what they were voting for. And so this would, the substitute, rather than sending the explainer via paper, which was what the cost was, would put a link to the explainer in with the absentee ballot of instructions, which is already printed out and sent to people when they have an absentee ballot.
Okay, and I'm just trying to pull this up on iHod myself, and I just see a blank screen.
Does it have to be moved first? No.
No, I think if it's offered on LIS, it should appear.
Okay.
Let me hit the refresh button.
Unplug it, plug it back.
Check to see that it is plugged in. Right?
That's the first thing.
Is the machine turned on? You know?
All right, just a minute. Okay, well, you've heard the substitute explained. Is there a motion to adopt it?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, substitute is before us, so Delegate, you have the floor.
And so the problem this is trying to solve is making sure that folks understand the constitutional amendments and get that explainer that we already provide to them in advance, and that will clog up your inboxes less. It will clog up Elect's inboxes less. It'll be more informed voters. Say that 10 times fast.
All right, questions from the committee? Hearing none at this time, are there any questions, or excuse me, any comments from members in the audience to this legislation? All right, is there anyone who has signed up to speak online? Okay, Ms. Van Breda again.
Yes, I'm with the League of Women Voters of Virginia. The League supports HB 439. The bill would ensure that voters who vote absentee receive the information they need to decide whether or not to support a constitutional amendment or statewide referenda questions placed on their ballot. The League continues to believe that an educated electorate, given nonpartisan information, leads to trusted election results. The same information should be provided to voters whether they vote in person or whether they vote by mail. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And while I was still trying to load this on my computer, the clerk handed me the substitute. And so substitute, as I read it, basically just has these 4 lines added to subsection A4. So it's following the direction, the printed instructions for completing the ballot and statement on the envelope and returning the ballot as one of the requirements, such instructions shall include information on the sites of all drop-off locations in the county or city. That's already included. And then your language is adding, whenever there is a proposed constitutional amendment or a statewide referendum to be voted on by the voters, these instructions shall also include the website address where the explanation of the proposed amendment prepared pursuant to Code Section 30-19.9 or the information about the referendum prepared pursuant to 30-19.10 is posted on the department's website. Is that correct?
It provides a link to the explainer that we pass here in P&E in the voting instructions for the absentee ballot, so that they can access that information.
Mr. Chairman,
Delegate Head.
what information about the proposed amendment is currently printed on the ballot?
Mr. Chairman, there is no information that is currently printed on the ballot for a constitutional amendment, only the question itself. But I'm sure you all recall that we met in this interim of 2020 to approve the ballot explanation, which is the 500-word neutral, plain language explanation of what a constitutional amendment is proposing to do and what a yes vote would mean and what a no vote would mean. Your friendly DLS staff person might have gotten a lot of calls about this, asking how to explain the constitutional amendment regarding redistricting. So this would just direct people to that link, so she doesn't have to.
Right. Mr. Chairman, follow-up question for perhaps for Councilor Patron, just to, would this not then put presumably a voter who actually goes to the polls and vote in the position of perhaps being less informed than an absentee voter?
So currently, Mr. Chairman, Delegate Head, the only place that the amendment or the amendment explanations are posted is in the polling place on Election Day.
In other words, they do get the explainer if they're voting in Election Day.
Okay, so they get the explanation. That was what I'm saying, but we don't put that currently. We don't put that explanation currently on the absentee ballots.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Let's see. I think first.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I just had a question.
Yes.
So would this mean that it would be easier, because even my office gets calls, that we really need a place to divert them? So this would give one landing place for this is where the constitutional amendment explanation is.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Krizak.
Mr. Chairman, question for the patron. So at first I didn't like this because I thought that information should be in the envelope and not a direction or link to the website. But after listening to Delegate Head's questions, I understand that this, because it's not on the ballot when you go into the regular vote, then why should it be with the ballot when you get it in the mail? So having the link, I think, is a perfect compromise, and it makes it equal to whether you're voting in person and you can see it, or you're voting in the mail and you can go look it up. So I'm very supportive of this as it is now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate, I think Delegate Williams has the button.
Question for the patron. Who writes the language that is explained? Who writes the language?
We do.
Who's we?
P&E. The P&E
Okay.
committee is responsible for passing the explainers. DLS writes, we edit, and then we pass the explainers out. So it's on us, the General Assembly.
Okay, it seemed to suggest that a nonpartisan legislative agency would then be approved by the State Board of Elections. So if I'm reading that wrong, is that the old one? This was HB 439.
Yeah.
Is that the old one?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. It says that, you want me to read I'll read the language. It says, wherever there's a proposed constitutional amendment or statewide referendum to be voted on by the voters, pardon me, these instructions shall also provide the website address for the explanation of the proposed amendment pursuant to Section 30, or the information about the referendum prepared pursuant to Section 30 is posted, and that's going back to the explainer and our process for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Delegate Head.
Yeah, and so just clarifying, again, the information that is printed on the ballot when you go to the polls and the information on the website is the same information.
So to clarify, on the ballot, you just have the question, right? Are you voting for the amendment? But you get
on the absentee ballot, but if you go to the polls and vote, it's just printed. But regardless, the information that is available at the poll when you go, and the information that is on the website, if you refer somebody to go to the website, is identical information.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman,
Delegate Ranson.
question for the patron
Yes.
or for the director. Isn't this information already posted on the State Board of Elections website?
I will leave that to him.
So, Mr. Chairman, Delegate, yes, it's already posted on the website. My understanding of the bill is that it would just require us to put the link on the instructions.
All right. Any additional questions that have been raised? Okay, hearing no additional questions, I'd say the bill is before the committee. All right, there's a motion to report the substitute. And is there a second? All right. Okay, any further debate or discussion? Okay, so with the substitute, there's information that's already there. We're just saying put the link on the instructions, so if people want to see it, they can go to it. Okay. All right. Please record your vote on the electronic device. All right, please close the roll. The bill reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
All right. Okay. That takes us to block number 3. Chairman Ranson, you had House Bill 310. I think you've requested that be passed by for the day. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think we're working with Delegate Bloxham now.
All right.
I would so move. Second.
All right. All those in favor of House Bill 310 being passed by for the day, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Hearing none, the bill's passed by. That leaves us with Delegate Bloxham, House Bill 175.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think there is a substitute, council, which combines our two together.
All right, council, is there a substitute that's been distributed?
Mr. Chair, the substitute should be posted online, hopefully quicker than the last time, but just shortly.
Okay. All right, I invite the members to pull that up on your device. All right, I guess while we're, again, waiting for it to load.
I'll explain the gist of the
Go
bill,
ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Basically, what this does is remove the permanent list for absentee ballots. You'd have to do it annually. And also, it would add, when you, I think, and I have to ask council, make sure that's in this, to verify on your application when you send it in, you would need to put your last 4 of the social and your birth date to verify that the voter is, the registrar can verify who the voter is when they send it out. And that's the gist of the bill.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the substitute.
Okay, so there's a motion to accept the substitute. It's been seconded. I still don't see the substitute, but
Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to work on that. don't know what's going on.
Okay. But if the members are satisfied with the description that's been given, we can go ahead and adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the forthcoming substitute is adopted. All right. Is there an additional presentation you'd like to make, Delegate Bloxham?
No, sir, that's the gist of the bill. It just takes away that there will not be a permanent absentee ballot list. A voter would have to ask for it yearly. But in that year, every election, they would get a ballot for. But it removes the every year a person gets an absentee ballot and never has to ask for one again.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this legislation? All right. Looks like we have a few folks online. All right. Dr. Clara Wheeler.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this morning. This is a very worthwhile bill in that it removes the permanent absentee ballot list. As we know, we all live in a very mobile community. People move, and frequently they fail to notify their registrar that they've moved. This happens all the time, whether for business reasons, students graduate from school and move. It happens regularly. And consequently, our voter registration lists are not always as accurate as we would prefer they be, because they should be absolutely accurate. Having a permanent absentee ballot list means that once a voter requests to be on the absentee ballot, the registrar will in perpetuity send a ballot to that voter at that address, which means that if that voter no longer lives at that address, a miscreant person could receive that ballot at that address. It's a live ballot, vote it and mail it back in, and then somebody else has voted. This would happen frequently in communities that move on a regular basis. I would also offer that attaching the last four of the Social Security number helps the registrars verify that indeed the absentee ballot is the person who is voting that ballot. It's a safeguard to make sure that no one's ballot is marked by another person. Thank you very much for your consideration.
All right, thank you. All right, Allison Robbins, I believe you may have signed up for House Bill 310, but your comments would relate to this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Allison Robbins. I'm the Director of Elections for Wise County, and I'm with the Voter Registrars Association, speaking to the part of this bill that requires the last four of the Social Security number. The Voter Registrars Association strongly encourages the committee to consider legislation that definitively requires that registrars have the last four of the social to verify the identity of a voter before we mail a ballot. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mary Ivy.
I support this bill. I worked as an authorized observer for a local canvass, and 37 of the 45 ballots that came in were people that were unable to vote in person on election day or in early voting person because it showed that they had requested an absentee ballot that they never received. Over half of those voters never requested the absentee ballot. And either they got on a permanent absentee list by accident or it was left over. I think this bill would eliminate a lot of confusion, frustration, and time spent processing provisional ballots unnecessarily. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the substitute should now be available for everyone to view.
All right.
Thanks for bearing with us.
All right, if the members could take a minute and pull up your substitute. Oh, come on. See it now.
There we go.
Okay. Are there any additional questions for the patron? Delegate Creasy.
Yeah, I'm just looking at substitute. What line were those on? On line 96 through 99, Mr. Chairman. So the folks, my biggest concern is the folks that are already signed up. And I think that's what this section deals with. So can somebody just explain to me exactly what happens to those that are already signed up so that they're not confused and wondering why their ballot doesn't come next year?
Delegate Bloxham.
I think I'm going to defer to council on that to make sure that we've got it right.
Mr. Chair, Delegate Krizik, so with the language that's proposed, the general registrar is going to send to every voter who's on the absentee voter list, the permanent one, they'll become on the annual absentee voter list, and so they'll be sent an application December 15th to say, do you want to be on the annual application list for the next year?
Mr. Chairman, just
Delegate Krizik.
Just for clarity, so they will automatically, so those folks who are already on it will automatically get that, be on the new annual, so they'll segue over. So it shouldn't be too disruptive to them.
Right. It's similar to when we had the annual absentee voter list for 1 year, and then it went to permanent absentee voter list, and those voters the annual went to permanent.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaking to the bill, I just think that is a good provision of it. I may vote against it because of something else in here, but I do like that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, any additional questions? Any additional final comments, Delegate Bloxham?
No, sir. I think that it's a good safeguard we put in there for the Social Security number and the birth date to make sure the registrar sends the absentee ballot to a registered voter that they can verify. And I think that asking them to fill out an annual application for a ballot is a small responsibility to do instead of just sending out ballots consistently forever to an address. So I think it's a good bill. I hope it's acted upon favorably.
All right. As do I. All right. The chair will entertain motions.
Motion to report.
Second.
All right. Any further debate or discussion? Okay. And I would say that's a motion to report the substitute.
Yes, sir.
It's been seconded. Any further debate? Delegate Converse-Fowler?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to thank the patron with our military community. This will make a lot of sense. So thank you to the delegate. Mr. Chair, thank you.
All right. Okay. Hearing no further discussion, please record your vote. All right. Please close the roll. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Delegate Converse-Fowler. All right. Please close the roll. Bill reports 7-1. Okay. And with that, the business of the committee is completed, and we adjourn.